It's a very short book. I think anyone who's
Yeah.
interested in it should give it a listen. I think if you're already business savvy and read a lot of business books and self-help books, I think a lot of the stuff you already will know, but I think it's a good reminder of where all these ideas of the business books came from. Hello, welcome back to the podcast Evolve with me, Lewis, and Sam. And I think this is episode 42 or 43. So yeah, we're in the 40s now.
42 feels right. 42 feels right.
Yeah.
I thought 41's already gone live.
Yeah, I forgot to celebrate the 40s. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, shameful.
But
we both did,
yeah.
to be fair.
To be fair, we both did. Yeah, we're just on it all the time that we don't have time to celebrate.
This is normal for us now.
We're just here. It's just normal.
Yeah, we just win now. So like, you know, when it becomes standard like this, all we look forward to is the 100. You know, the 50, 52. Maybe we'll.
Yeah, we're very close. We're very close.
We are close. We are ridiculously close.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're getting there.
How have you been? How's your week been?
I've been good.
Minute summary.
I've just checked buffer and I've realized I didn't schedule content for today for the rest of the week, so I'm just going to do that after the pod today. But that is within my personal allowance for fuck up, which is I will allow myself 1 day of skipped socials, but that means I've got to sort it today.
I will confess I did post the episode late yesterday, and that was my bad, and I did realize late.
That's cool. I did wonder why I got a notification until later.
Yeah, that was my bad.
So fair enough. That's fair enough. You know what? We shouldn't. Everyone, let me pause. We're allowed to relapse, right? What we can't do is just fall into the depths of failure.
Yeah.
Right. We're allowed to. I'm enjoying life at the moment. There's a new level. After I've been reading these books, I am just in my bag at the moment.
Yeah.
And I just have a new level of respect for myself. A new way of looking at the world around me. Rest of the minute summary is I am embracing tougher times intentionally. So I'm putting myself in front of tough situations and just getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, because bitch mode is off now. We just got to be grown-ups. We've got to deal with business life as it is. So yeah, that's where we're at. How about you?
It's good, man. I fully will be moving in this weekend. So the next recording will be in the gaff with Rosie, which I'm very excited for. So all those positive changes are happening and I'm very excited, and I'm looking forward to the exciting phase of my life where I'm living with my woman, which is sick. Work's going well. I had my first therapy session of the year yesterday, and because I had like a month off over like Christmas and everything like that, and I was like, I've got some trauma to build up before I need another therapy session. But no, it's going to start back bi-weekly again, and it was very eye-opening, because I found it really weird for me not to have anything to stress about, and the only things to stress about were the things that it's all positive stresses, which is what I've been saying for the past, since I've got this job, really. And I came up with this metaphor like on the spot, which I really liked. And I'd say last year, in terms of like my motivations for doing things outside of work, it was one kidney was the toxic fuel of trying to escape my situation with bad job and everything like that. Yeah, so that was one kidney, right? And the other kidney was the, me trying to, do the things that I love and I'm passionate about. And so I've basically got rid of one kidney, the toxic fuel kidney. And so I'm learning to be driven by like the good aspects of it and not trying to escape from a bad one. So I'm learning to operate on the good kidney.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with this.
Do you know what I mean?
But I feel like kidney is the wrong thing. Maybe
because your whole body will function on one kidney, right? If you got rid of one. So I'm learning to operate on a good kidney and not being fueled to do shit by toxic fuel and try to, unfuck up my life. So I'm I
I
basically
get what you're going for.
do
It's
you
a
feel
bit
what
of
I
a
mean?
reach. The
So
analogy is a reach, but
it
the
makes
goal.
sense in my
I get the
makes
goal of
sense
what
in
you're
my
trying to
head.
say. I get
Do you
it.
know what
I
I mean?
get it. Yeah.
And
Okay.
basically, I'm finding it weird to motivate myself by carrot, not stick. That's
Right.
probably a
Okay.
simpler way of putting it.
That is a better
Um,
way for
way
to be
way
honest with you. That's a way better way of
way
putting it.
better. And so the past few weeks, I was like, when like work's been good and the pay's good, and I come
Yeah.
back and I'm like, oh, now it's time to do a side hustle. Then there's this part of my brain which is like, yeah, but I'm getting money now. Like things are chill. Like we don't have to work hard, and that's what I'm like trying to be like. That shouldn't be my
Mm.
response. And I've seen it too many times with my parents' generations. If they got a really good high paying job early and then 20 years later they wish that they continued that side hustle thing that they wanted to do. And so I'm feeling the pull of being comfortable. But yesterday, or like the past couple of days, i've um I've been forcing, not to say forcing myself, but it's actually been a lot easier to start doing the video editing, the things that I need to do because of what happened last year and how stressed I was
Mm.
last year. The threshold and the banks of effort to do things has actually really been helpful now. It's like, remember the episode where we talk about like the spoon
Yeah.
analogy? I have so many spoons, and it's actually not like draining to do the side shit, which is a really good
Right.
position for me to be in. Um,
Okay.
so I'm enjoying that at the moment. I'm looking forward to setting up my new office space. Um, I'm now investing into things that I can be quicker and a faster editor because at the moment, uh, sorry to go on a bit of a tangent, but like for me, it's like I need to be able to do things faster and cheaper than the other editors because at the moment there's going to be a lot of people who are better than me. So my angle is, can I get it done quicker and can I get it done cheaper? And then that's how you kind of market yourself, and then you end up earning the money. So I'm kind of rejigging the plan on how I'm going to get to where I want to get to, and I'm kind of like, now that I have the bandwidth to think about these things, I'm kind of doing a bit of a clean slate and starting from scratch in terms of what the plan's going to be, because my circumstances have been completely different. And the goal for the last 6 months of last year was I need to get out this job, and I basically had to 100% in on that, not 80% job, 10% editing, and then like pod and everything like that. So I feel like I have enough bandwidth to do everything that I want to do now, which is good.
Okay. Do you have enough bandwidth now? Do you think you'll consistently have this bandwidth to be able to sustain it?
Um, I think it will ebb and flow, but overall, I think so, yes. Purely because I'm not mandated to go into the office 3 days a week.
It's
And
remote, isn't it?
yeah. And so
Okay.
my minimum is 1 day a week. And
Okay.
I'm trying to look at it from a I actually really, because I had this conversation with myself today because I actually enjoy going into the office now, which is really weird, which is you have never heard me say before. And I like the people who I work with, and I like the team. And part of me is like, oh, I should go in more, like get to know, like do all that sort of stuff. But I'm having to remind myself this isn't the long term goal. And in 10 years' time, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be Mister, team lead of whatever for the rest of my life. Like this is the fuel for where I'm going to go. So I don't need to go in more than I have to. And actually, the time that if I wanted to go in an extra day or an extra 2 days, that's actually taking away from what I want to do. So it's kind of like the conversation you had the other day with, is it on the roadmap? No.
Yeah.
Why are you going in 3 days to make friends? No, we have the
There we
roadmap.
go.
So
Yeah.
I'm reminding myself what this job is fueling. But it's nice to be in a nice environment, and I might do the occasional 2 days. I probably won't do three. Let's be honest, but I'm not gonna spend more time there than I need to because actually I can put in those hours and put in the reps to do the to do the passion. Um, so yeah, I'm in a good position, and yeah, it
Nice.
feels good. And in about a week from now, like everything will be settled regarding the move, and I can fully take action for the year because January's just been all about the move. So I'm excited to get started.
Just settle that down and keep it moving.
Yeah.
No, I rate that. I rate that.
Cool. Sam,
Yeah.
introduce today's topic.
Today's topic from the best podcast on the internet with a Samuel Grantson and a Lewis Facey is Art of War. The, I guess, summary of this topic is we're going to be talking about competition, going to talk about how to deal with, uncomfortable situations with people, confrontation. Definitely going to talk about the book itself, Art of War, and how that inspired this topic in general. And that's going to be my main reference point for pretty much most of what I say, because it's the most recent audiobook I've listened to, although I will admit most of it's left my head. And yeah, actually, enough spoilers. Let's just get into it. Lewis, have you read the book / listened to it? What do you think of it?
Yeah. I understand why it's a famous book. And when I say read the book, it wasn't like the traditional, the scripture, but it was the translation of the book, which is basically the most accessible now. I think it's very I feel like I don't appreciate it as much as I would have done if I had never read a business book before, because I understand it's like most of it is things that we already know through our understanding of business already. So I understand how businesses have taken these strategies into consideration, and that's been basically passed down into every single business book. You will see an element of Art of War. It's kind of like how every sci-fi film has an element of Star Wars or Dune, the book, and it's
Yeah.
basically derivative of everything. And this is basically like the OG source of it, is how I'm thinking about it. So like you said, it, goes into strategy, goes into planning, how to pivot in bad situations, how to be flexible and adapt and know your competition, and what if your competition's aggressive and what if they're not aggressive. And we talked about 48 Laws of Power last week, and even elements of that. It refers to um, that book itself refers to Art of War a lot,
Mm.
as well. Like when your enemy's weak, destroy
Yeah.
them, and all that sort of stuff. And if they're expecting you to attack from the right, go from the left. Uh, and we went into this kind of we low key kind of touched upon it last week. We were talking about persuasion and
Yeah.
elements of illusion as well. So yeah, overall, it's a very short book. I think anyone who's
Yeah.
interested in it should give it a listen. I think if you're already business savvy and read a lot of business books and self-help books, I think a lot of the stuff you already will know, but I think it's a good reminder of where all these ideas of the business books came from.
Yeah.
So those are my initial thoughts on it.
My initial thoughts, just because I'm now just over the halfway point of 48 Laws of Power. That's like 16-hour audiobook, to be honest. So that's quite a bit to go
It's a
through.
big ass book.
It's long, but I think it's long because each law is basically like broken down into the law itself, evidence from history, a bit of explanation. It's basically each law is a P paragraph plus two. So it's like the point, example, explanation, and then a review of that explanation, and then it'll move on to the next law. That's basically the formula, and it basically means you really like dig deep on each one, compared to the Art of War, which is almost like a quick synopsis of what each law is, or each like key point is, and then it moves on. So you literally, I think you'd have to listen to that audio tape like 4 or 5 times to really actually
I agree.
remember all of it. That it goes through it so quickly. I will say that Art of War leaves a lot of room for interpretation. It leaves a lot of space for you to consider what it's saying and make it relevant to yourself. But 48 Laws of Power is very direct as a book. And why I'm comparing those two is the bias is because those are the two most recent things, but it's because they're kind of similar in a sense of they're perceived as aggressive tactics in the form of a book. However, I think they're actually dissimilar, let's say, because 48 Laws of Power in itself is a very aggressive book in terms of how it words and so to the language it uses. And Art of War, it's you reading that book shouldn't make you become an aggressive person. It's your interpretation of it that either doubles down on you being a naturally aggressive
Yeah.
person or doubles down on you being more tactical in a sense. Because Art of War is, I'd say that makes you a better leader, and it makes you a better understander of like the environment around you and how to move the pieces around you so everyone can go towards a common goal. Whereas 48 Laws of Power is a very selfish read. It's very like, how can I make me the best? How can I get to the top? It's very all about
It's
me, me, me.
yeah.
Um,
I would
yeah,
say
I have
to
one
add to
point to
that.
make, but you,
Fuck, go on.
I'll let you. No, no, you land, because the
Sure.
point kind of
I would
builds up a
say,
bit.
like, based off my interpretation of the audiobook I listened to, it's kind of like the 10 commandments of business. And
Yeah.
I would say 48 Laws of Power is more of like a in-depth guide and kind of like
Mhm.
expanded on version of it. I feel like
Yeah.
it'd be very easy for me to interpret 48 Laws of Power as a explained version of Art of War in some sense,
Mm.
because it actually gives examples. Art of War is very much a book of assertions. It doesn't explain why it's that case as such, and it doesn't argue with itself and provide evidence as to why
Yep.
that is the case. It's very much, this is how it is, and that's it. Whereas 48 Laws will go into examples and explain why this law is the case and why you need to be aware of it, um, and also how to use it or how to avoid people who are trying to use it on you. So I'd say it's definitely it's a lot more rounded as a book. However, this book came out centuries ago. So again,
Yeah, you gotta think.
it's
Certain man didn't
unfair
even
to
read
get
left
through,
and
but at the
right.
same time, it's, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah, I get
but
you. I get you.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's
I
very
would say,
much like the
well, one thing when I was
God,
going into reading 48 Laws Power, I remember you telling me that, oh, it's banned in prisons, and there's this whole view that reading it will turn you into Lex Luthor, essentially, and make you an evil villain. I've come to accept that that's actually quite an arrogant way to see the book, because it's almost like assuming that you are so good at comprehending information. You are so capable of world domination that reading this book is like your final cheat code. It's like the Konami code your body needs to unlock all your powers and become a beast. And that is certainly not the case. I think a lot of people who have read it, and I know they probably have the best intentions in saying like, "Oh my god, it's too powerful of a book. Like, don't read it; it'll turn you into a demon." Like, I've read it and it's changed me. I think low key, those people need to get over themselves. It's You take from it what you need. If you think there's no way although the author says it, the only way I could comprehend someone being able to follow each of those 48 laws is literally by being a psychopath or a sociopath. They're all so contradictory, and if you were to follow it to the letter, you'd have to I think there's a wiring in the brain that I don't think I'm capable of, that I think it's very small population of people that are capable of, in terms of to actually manipulate each law to the extent that it's presented as. I think there are elements in it, and it's all about a time and a place. It's all about how you use it and when to use it. I think the 48 laws could be used for good, and I think most people who read it would benefit from it. So I actually do encourage people to read it. I don't think you're going to read it and go, "Oh my god, I am now part of the dark side now. It's time. It's time to get my dark clothes on, get the bread." I don't think that's going to happen, because there's a moral compass, there's a moral compass that we all have, or most people have, that would guide them around the law and how it's interpreted. I would say reading that has made me more aware of maybe the intention of others who I think are more capable of being sociopaths or more capable of not giving a damn about others. It's made me more aware of what their intent might be, in terms of reading the book, understanding it, and going, okay, I do spot those behaviors. And there is actually a law around spotting those kind of people, to be fair. So I'm trying to remember which one it is. There's a law around people, infectious personalities or infectious behaviors, people who basically, for whatever reason, just feel the need to drag everyone down with them, and they cannot be explained. And we've all encountered those people, because if you're a good person, you've tried to help someone like that, and you got to a point where it's just like, why can't you just help yourself? Like, I'm actually trying, and it's almost like you're working against me. It's like you're trying to save them from drowning, and they've decided that this is the moment I'm going to start collecting pebbles from the sea, and I'm going to hold all those pebbles while you're saving me, and we're going to die together. And you're like, why are you doing this? It's like, I've decided this is a very important thing I have to do in my life now. And it's that those kind of people just can't be helped, and there is kind of it gives you an understanding of those characters. But I will say that reading it kind of gave me the sense that the author's almost like listed loads of like key people in history and picked an element that you can say, okay, makes them a good dominator in a specific situation and gone, oh, that's an example, that's an example. But I can't trust in every law because I can't understand how they have systematically collected all the evidence needed, filtered it all out, and brought it down to those 48 laws and those examples. It's not clear. It does seem like cherry picking all the best characteristics, all the dominant characteristics of Lex Luthor, just to create some kind of like very impactful book that everyone talks about, to be honest. However, Art of War, because it leaves room for interpretation and because it's so old school, so short, so to the point in its own way, I think it's actually an easier read. It's easier to digest the knowledge from that. And you can actually follow each of the guidance all together in one go. They all fit together
Yeah.
nicely. They are nothing is really contradictory. If I feel like if you think something's contradictory from that, then you're not following it in the right way, because it's very clear to me that each law, each guidance in the Art of War is more about the time and the place. And there will always be a time and a place in life where you can align with each law of that. Whereas the 48 laws of power, you have to switch characters so quick to fit into each laws in a time and
Yeah.
place. It's
I
like
hear
you
you.
can't be the same person and consistently follow
Yeah.
every law. Whereas Art of War, you can be the same person. You
Yeah.
can be who you
I
are.
get what you're
It's more
saying.
about your approach. But yeah, anyway, this isn't about the 48 laws of power. This is about Art of War. And I wanted to ask you moments in, maybe let's not use your current job because you just got there, but moments in your previous roles where you felt like it's you versus someone else, and you felt like elements of the Art of War, or in general, you felt like you needed to consider a tactical approach to getting past an individual or a certain task or a certain group of people to get to success. Have you got any
Mm.
examples from your previous experience? I know I've got bad because all I've done is complain about previous jobs on this podcast, to be honest. But I'd like to point that question at you.
Let me just, before I do that, I want to make sure I get the right.
Lewis is making sure he's received his P45 so they don't block it.
I'm making sure I'm referencing the right part of the Art of War. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think maybe you could help me out with this one, but
Go on.
I understood that you know, we talked about power in a previous episode, where, you know, my manager in theory should have more power over me. However, I recognized that I was in a situation where I actually held more power over my manager because I had more knowledge of what I was doing, and I actually understood what was expected of me on like a day-to-day basis. And my manager was in a position where, um, you know, a lot of people were leaving, and
Mm.
a lot of eyes were on her. And if I asked her publicly to help with a situation that she should be able to do, it would reflect badly. And so I used to be very much like, oh, it's my manager, I can't really do anything, like when they kind of give me shit, right? Um, but there was a moment where she basically like questioned me over like the equivalent of like, you know, did you flush the toilet kind of question. And
Yeah.
I very much said to her, like, I've been the one good hire you've made in the last 2.5 years. Like, you can trust me to do these things. And it was very much like, you you should know, like, I know what I'm doing, and you know that I can't go to you for these things. And I very much made the point, like, because she tried to, I tried to get like more autonomy from her, which may have been a mistake to begin with, because then her answer was to be like, oh, well, I can give it to this manager and this manager as well to kind of like for approvals of stuff, so I have more people to go to. And I basically said they don't know what they're doing because I'm in this 60 hours a week, and they may be in it 1 hour every other month. Um, and so my answer to that was, like, you know, she didn't fight on that. And so I basically kind of like played along, but actually in secret, she thought, oh, okay, I'm going to go do that. But really, I went a different route and diverted to a different manager in LA who I actually go to, being like, can you just give me access to approve all this sort of stuff? And that's what I did. So I suppose there was an element of like attack from the, if they're expecting you to attack from the left, come from the right element of it um, as well. I did make, because, I tried to move internally as well. So it was clearly evident that I wanted to move for different reasons. And I made it well known that I was in a situation that I didn't want to be in because of my current situation and who it was caused by. Um, so I don't know. Where do you think that comes in? In comparison to this, I feel like it was like a slow war of attrition.
I think I'm not gonna lie, it just sounds like you straight up defected to another end. It just sounds like you straight up just Judas your manager to success. To be honest, but I don't. I'll put it this way: one thing that comes to mind is a possible. If someone was to repeat your actions but with different goals, it would be a massive mistake for them. And I think that's recognizing the value of your manager's authority.
Mm,
And why I'm saying that specifically is to you, that manager's authority didn't have much value because you saw no value in being under their command. You saw no value in being part of their team. And there is,
yeah.
in the art of war, there is a rule around that of if your warriors are basically drinking, if you send your warriors to fetch water and they drink some of it on their way back, they're not doing well. Like people are thirsting, people are in need of help and support. Now you can see this from the perspective of they don't respect you, they don't respect why they're doing it, and that's why they're probably drinking the water on the way back. Or you can see it like people are desperate and in need of something, and you're not giving it to them, so they're taking it for themselves as part of the journey, which I would say is similar to what you've done. So I'd say that the learnings isn't for you in that case; it's probably for your manager to just have been a better person and recognize your needs
Good.
and
So,
wants and supported you better. But I would say there's the other side of if someone's listening to this and thinking, oh, I really want to like grow and develop in this current role I'm doing, don't do what Lewis did. Because there is enough rulings that say do not go above and beyond your manager or your leader because they have a
yeah.
lot more power and influence to throw you under the bus. And you might say, oh, no, they don't. When you go to HR and complain and no one comes back to you, I think you know why.
Oh yeah, you can't complain to HR. And actually,
Yeah.
I tell you
And it's
what,
because your manager's way more valuable in most cases to the business than you
um,
are. You can be replaced. It's way more
I
effort sometimes to replace a manager.
I actually thought of another example, but it wasn't for my
Go on.
last job. It was for my first job. Um, and you already know the story of how they put me onto a performance plan,
Oh
gave you
yeah.
like a warning and everything like that. They were like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
very
Lewis,
resource
you're now
resource.
the ideal employee." And da 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 da. And I played along for about 6 months, and yeah, then I quit, and then they needed to hire 3 people to replace me, and they genuinely did not see it coming at all, and it was one of the greatest days of
I
my life.
remember that.
Yeah,
That was
that
the
that was actually, yeah, that was I felt,
that's actually your best example. Now, why
yeah,
at least you can go into more detail
I
about
forgot
that
about that.
one. That was your
Yeah,
best example because that was such a satisfying story to listen to.
it
Like I
really
felt
was.
vindicated. It was actually like a heroic turnaround. It depends
Yeah.
on whose perspective, but it was a heroic turnaround from
No,
someone.
I mean, they backed me into a corner essentially because I
Mm,
had no other choice because it was either I was going to get kicked out or I was going to leave
mm,
because I already had a warning on myself for no reason. Um, that means if I were to move team, it was like a red flag against my name, and I obviously wouldn't be able to get promoted because they kept on giving me 4 people's workload. So as opposed to, because I couldn't bitch because HR are just like bezies with everybody.
mm.
So the only option was to be a snake. And that's what I had to do. And so, they were like, "Oh, Lewis, you're doing so well." And, I kissed ass and I pretended to like give a shit about, "Oh my God, like, oh my God, how was your weekend? Oh, that's crazy," to like everybody. I I coped with the micromanagers and telling them like everything that I was doing because I was like being very much played by the book. So I made sure that I passed all this sort of stuff and was buying time for me to basically exit. And I pretended to have conversations about, like opportunities and everything like that, because I really didn't want them to catch on to what I was doing at
Mm,
all. Because bear in mind, this was the days of you have to work in every single day of the week. And the amount of furniture that I said I had to work from home for to replace, everyone said you had to replace a fridge, the bed frame, the washing machine. I was running out of furniture. And all these things were interviews. Um, and so they weren't expecting an attack from me at all, because I basically was like, "Oh, this is the company where I want to be. I see myself doing." I said whatever they wanted to hear, and they gobbled it all up because they thought I was a naive 22-year-old, and it was a big company, and they thought, "Yeah, he really wants to stay here. We're going to get him to do 4 times as much work." And yeah, they were absolutely blindsided
mm.
as a result,
I
and
would
it was
say
great.
my favorite. So one of the Art of War. What are they? Is it laws, rulings, chapters,
I feel
tenets?
like
I think they're
they're
like tenets or something like
It's
that.
like it's like tactics. It depends on how who interpreted it.
But you
Um,
know what I mean. One of the points anyway that it mentioned was basically do not attack an enemy that's got their house in order. You need to
Mhm.
basically plan better and come at it a different approach.
Yeah,
And in a
that was
previous
it
in a
was a resources one, wasn't it?
yeah. And it's but yeah,
Allocation of resources.
if
Yeah,
they've got a better allocation of resources, there's no point of and one of the best things I read in there as well, listened to in there was is better 10 gallons of your enemy's water is worth like 20 gallons of yours. And the idea around it is you can use up the resource you have and survive, or you can take away from your enemy. And not only do they have less time to survive, you now have more time to survive than they would. Whereas if you're using if you both have the same amount of resource, you basically it's attrition basically until you both end up at the same point. So why I love that and why I love that one is more because I think a lot of people are in a position where not a lot of people, but frustratingly, some people are in positions where you've got someone who's above you who does not really give a damn. You are just resource to them, but you've got high goals. You want to get far in life. And sometimes you get employed into a job just to be a doer, not a thinker. And some of my enemies probably have heard that phrase. And that's right, I'm about to talk about you. Anyway. um, but yeah, it's more sometimes you get hired to be a doer, not a thinker. And I think it's quite a frustrating place to be in when you've got high aspirations and you want to do more of your life, you just can't get there. And one thing I learned in previous roles, and I guess in a previous life, is it pushed me into a corner, and it made me very good at plotting, like
Mm.
my revenge. Essentially, it made me very good at plotting my next steps, because what I did, which I know I said we'll probably stop talking about it, but it's like 48 laws of power. Is I played the gesture. I was a dumbass. So I played dumb, went quiet, went limp, and basically made them feel like, oh, everything's going well. And adding a bit more context into this. So I wanted to grow my career. I started to talk to certain people who were above me, and there was clearly I had a good mind for like product development, product strategy. And there was an opportunity for me to grow, but a certain manager I worked for didn't understand why I got to talk to those people and why I was so important. And from his perspective, I was only brought in to be a doer. And by talking to all these people, I was ruining his master plan for the team, which is to have someone just do the day job whilst he basically pushed up people he wanted to push up in the team. I was brought in basically as reserves, whilst his actual like favorite troops got pushed into frontline and got all the medals. And it played against that plan. And because he wanted things to work in a certain way, he didn't like that. But ultimately, I'm not going to I'm not going to throw my goals away just to be like a brick in someone else's tower. I'm not going to throw myself under that. So I basically realized that anytime I played the offensive, anytime I was very obvious around what I was trying to achieve, it was being blocked. And there was a time where I went on holiday and I thankfully I became friends with the right people and like the HR teams, got to know certain people. I went on holiday and came back and found out that whilst I was on holiday, he's booking meetings with the higher up people and doing a performance review of me to those people. I was just like, why? And they were like, we thought it was weird because it was just like out of nowhere he's booking meetings with people to highlight why they should be talking to you, but specifically me, like they should be talking to me. And it was
Mm.
like, but he's just an employee. Why are you going? And he basically pushed it out to a point that I realized that this is actually good for me because I'm now taking my enemy's water away from him. I'm not doing the effort of putting myself in front of these higher up people. He keeps putting my name
Yeah.
in their heads. So I basically realized I was like, all I have to do is make it look like I'm going to these people meetings now. All I have to do is make it look like I've got their attention. And sometimes I did. Sometimes I'll go for meals and one of the higher up bosses will come up and we'll have a chat. But it wouldn't be me trying to be coercive. It would just be like, oh, this is an idea I have. Take it or leave. And they'll be like, yeah, we'll think about it. They're not saying, oh, come and have a meeting. But at work, I'll be sat there, but within his earshot, be like, oh my God, I really talked to this guy about this idea and he really liked it. I think he might want to work on it. Maybe he'll come back to me, which isn't wrong because he might want to work on it. Maybe he'll come back to me. But I said it in a way that I was so enthusiastic, I realized that it'll trigger him. And then on lunch break, he'll disappear. And then I'd notice he's got a meeting all of a sudden. It'll be a meeting with someone. And I'm like, he's definitely going to have a meeting about how they should stop talking to him. It's like, and then the next day, that one of the bosses will come up and be like, oh, X person's brought up like, oh, like you need to like work on these goals. You know, I was like, okay, now I know for a fact he's talked to you because he's bringing up points that nonsense points that he keeps bringing up that I need to improve on. But I have improved on it. He just keeps moving the goalpost. But as soon as they brought information to me, I realized that, yep, that's what he's doing. So I realized that the information I was trying to present to him was being taken and put in. And eventually it kept working. And then when I realized that enough people in higher places knew my name and kept hearing about all these ideas I have, but this other person kept saying my performance was bad. I was like, okay, at some point I need to switch it up and let people know not only is my performance amazing, right, but I'm capable of so much more. So then it got to a point where I realized the frustration. I got booked into like a few meetings where you're just like, you're not doing your day job properly. You keep having meetings with these people, and I think that's what's holding you back. So you're not going to be having meetings with them anymore. And that was completely against the company's open door policy of being able to talk to all these higher ups. So I made notes of all of these things, asked for emails of everything, and then basically compiled all this information. And then before I submitted it, I basically turned on the tap. Like I was working crazy hours. Not only would I finish all my day jobs, after work, I'll be calling the American teams to share my idea with them. Because they're really enthusiastic people. So I'd be like building the building blocks towards all these cool projects. And then they'll be like, oh my God, we love this idea. How can we get more of you? I was like, well, I can't really do it in my day job because these are the things that apparently I'm not working on. They're like, well, we can see you're working on it. And what I did was I didn't go to him and present the evidence of I'm such a good like footstool to you now. I just did the job in the background. And then when the next case came up of, oh, Sam's not doing this well enough, Sam's not supporting the team, blah, blah, I just brought in all my evidence and just submitted it all to HR. I just brought it all over like, these are the hours I've worked. This is what I've done. This is the number of tasks I've completed. This is the number of opportunities I've launched. And then I've gone, okay. And then I've gone, but I don't think this is good enough for me. And then basically twisted it around and went, these are the things I want to work on. This is the degrees I've completed. This is the knowledge I have. These are the ideas I have. And then what I basically did was not only did I send it to the relevant people in the argument, I'd already sent it to the higher up people. So then what basically meant was when he picked up this information and tried to pivot his tactic into going up to the higher up people and try and twist the things I'm working on into how I'm actually chatting shit, they have already more than enough evidence to evaluate my ideas and realize that, okay, they're good before he could get there and twist it around and basically make it sound bad. They've already done their critique. So by him going to them and saying, oh, Sam's actually chatting crap, he's not done all these things, they're like, well, we're not going to let the bias of your words taint this because we've already looked into it and a lot of these things are plausible. And then not long after, I got moved into a new role. And basically I played, and then there's a law, 48 laws found. I think Shang Tsung Article covers this as well, which is you can't just destroy, you can't just put your enemy down. You've got to decimate them until that. There's no, and like, and there's sometimes I call it scorched earth Sam, which is like when I'm hard done by, and I think Lewis, you've probably witnessed it once or twice.
Yeah,
So
scorched earth.
I'm a big teddy bear. I would say I'm a big teddy bear, and I take a lot. I take a lot of disrespect before I react. But considering how my reactions are, I need to add this. It takes me a lot for me to unlock my full reactions to things. And if it's a negative, it takes a lot to really like have me engaged in pure revenge or pure scorched earth. And this individual did engage that. And I don't get physical when I go pure scorched earth. I don't do that. I think that's not going to help me. I focus on my goals, my roadmap, what I need to achieve, and how I can completely eliminate this individual out of that path. And that's basically what I did. So not only did I move into a new role, I added as many blockers as possible between me and them
Yeah.
ever
So
encountering each other. And
this
anytime we were going to work with each other, I did the job that he would do to just prove that there's little value to him being involved in anything I wanted to do, even though he tried to invite himself into projects. And then as I realized that his power was weakening, I then basically took a record of how to do his job to the higher ups in terms of, oh, this can be done by other teams, completely devalued his role, and just basically sat back, waited for him to leave. And then after he'd left, I raised a permanent HR complaint using all the evidence I have based on all the bad things he'd done, all the bad things he said that's stored up and reported. Apparently, it got taken off HR records. But I basically said, okay, if you're not going to put it on his record, I want you to put it on mine. So every time he tried to join the company again, his name would flag up in the system of these or these issues he had. And because he didn't, it wasn't just me he did it to, it was other people. I made sure everyone basically bucked up and actually stood up for themselves and made a note that this is what this kind of person is. And why I did that is so he could just never come back. I just made sure that the door was completely shut. And I think that has been the most savage or the most like art of war moment I've
yeah,
ever had.
that's a great story. You
Like,
took the win without fighting.
yeah, I basically just,
Uh,
I don't know where it came from. And sometimes, and that's what I mean about it wasn't intentional. Something deep woke up in, and I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh, I can do that anytime." That's what I mean. Like, it takes a lot for someone to find enough motivation to follow these guidelines to a point where you could
yeah.
actually be a terrible person. So don't be arrogant in thinking that, "Oh, I'm capable of dominating the world." You probably aren't. You just probably aren't. But you're capable of improving your life and getting the most you can out of it. But sorry, I rambled on for a while and I didn't really give you time to
No,
interject.
I think that was good because I was going to ask you um your example, but I think you deep dived into it and you gave a much better example than myself. So I think that was really good. And I like you had lots of different evidence, and you touched on a lot of different points. And I just got one here, and it says like you moved and deployed troops as well
Yeah.
because you got other people involved. So
100%.
your um, it's not your espionage. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. It's good. My strategy is always ends up being solo,
Mm.
as well. But I like how you had different evidence. But I think for me, because I was just thinking of how I'd done things a long term, and I actually remember my exit interview, when I left my previous role, and it was I actually stumbled upon it before I left, or right before the exit interview. Sorry, I had kept a log and dated um evidence of things that had happened uh throughout the past 2 years and 9 months.
Mm.
And that exit interview, I basically explained absolutely everything. I had um emails, I had evidence, I had Teams messages. So I was like, this is gonna be useful one day. And it was that long-term revenge plan combined with that little 1%. I was like, that little 1% thing that you did that I know is gonna come up and be useful to like create a case um one day. And I've sent it to um someone else as well. And I combined evidence from different people in a similar position
Mm.
about how the leadership has been. And I know someone who outright is trying to get an individual fired. And I basically was kind of like, let's combine forces. Um, and I know I'm not the first person to make different thing, make the points that I made in my exit interview. And I even went to previous um employees of just in case we compared notes, and I wanted to make sure I remembered everything that had happened as well, and compiled the best case I possibly can so that they are flagged if they go to anywhere
Mm.
or they want to get any sort of like move. Um, but no,
Yeah.
I liked your plan. I liked how you
It went well.
you destroyed them.
The gap now is significantly wide between me and that person, and I wish them well. I hope they're better people. I just don't want them anywhere near my orbit. And that's how I view. And there's something in business. There is a lot around the kind of people I would never work with. Kind of people I would never join like a full business partnership with. And it sounds
Mm.
very trivial, but there are certain character traits I try to avoid. People who actively cheat on their partners, I will never be in a serious business partnership with. I just can't. People who consistently badmouth people around them, people who they're meant
Yep.
to be friends with, I would
That's
never
the
be in a business
that's a
partnership
really
with.
that's a really big one.
People who evidently only seek the win for themselves, regardless of the vision. I would never be business partners with. And what I'm saying is they actively do not give a damn about the business goal. They just care about what's in it for them and what they can get out of it. Because I'm a vision type person. I'm like very passionate about an idea. I'm very passionate about where it can get us. And if you're just there to get your win, make a name for yourself, get some money, and basically screw me over halfway through the journey, that would never work. And they're all they all present themselves in different types of ways, but I just see them all as weak points,
Mm.
essentially. And like there's a lot of things I can forgive. I can forgive to a degree people's ideologies and what people believe in. I can forgive that as long as it's not playing a massive blocker, because I think it's important to have nuanced views. I think everyone's got their own views and everyone's got their own approaches to life. But when it starts working against you, or when it becomes very disruptive to a point where you're actually looking to basically ruin my opportunity or ruin my life, or kind of just basically destroy my growth, that's when I go on the offensive, and that's where I cut people off. And why I'm so maybe picky around, I can pick one actually. Why I'm picky around people who cheat is I think there was a study I read actually. I did read it, but I think it was a study, not just a story. Um, where it's found that people who are active cheaters on their partners tend to be very disloyal people in general in the business world and cannot be trusted. So effectively, people who betray the trust of others, they're so
Mm.
comfortable of doing that with people they're meant to care about the most, that it's very likely that in the business world they will do it to you as well. Because if
And
they're meant to love this person and they keep screwing
yeah,
them over, it's a
absolutely.
character trait that they can't help.
Yeah.
They've crossed the
I
line now, and they've tasted flesh, and now they can't go past it. That's all they
Levels.
care about. So
I mean, objectively, I think that that makes sense, right? Because
yeah,
they're supposed to love their partner more than you.
mm,
So, if they can
I
screw them
don't.
over
Yeah,
without remorse, then yeah, then they're
yeah.
gonna screw
And
you
there are
over
people like that,
for
and
sure.
there are a lot of. I've met a lot of arguably good business people, or no, I won't say arguably rich, successful people that are like that. They're very much like, I don't give a crap about the person I'm with. I don't care who I'm with. I sleep with
Mm.
who I want. And then you see, like, in front of people's faces, they'll straight up lie. And they kind of have this character trait of, well, this is what you got to do to be successful. And I'm just sat there like, how does that play into your roadmap of success?
Yeah, I
Like,
think
how does being in the brothel every other day play into your business plan? I don't get it.
one
So
thing
yeah.
one thing that I will say, which is a critique, I would say. I don't know if this is I could have missed this point
Mhm.
of the art of war and 48 laws of power, is that it doesn't mention your intuition. If you are doing something that
Mm,
you think is wrong or fucked up, you sometimes just gotta trust your gut.
yeah.
And I feel like your gut, like you can read everything you want, but your gut is probably going to be right. If you have good intuition and you're good at following your intuition, like I could have 100 people telling me to do something. If it doesn't feel right with me, I'm not doing it. Like
Yeah.
I can't explain why, but I can't we're getting to a big age now, right?
Mhm.
I've had my gut all this time, and every time I've gone against my gut, I've regretted it.
I
Every single
think
time.
I think it doesn't mention it because I don't think people like yourselves are as common as you think. I think everyone likes to have this idea of having this sixth sense of being able to spot danger and be able to avoid getting scammed and know what the right thing is for them. Everyone seems to have this idea of it. I
Mm.
think I have this belief that to a degree we're all NPCs. Like we can all be manipulated with the right data inputs. We can all be coerced into thinking things in a certain way. We can all be coerced into being scared of something, no longer scared of something, being brave. Or we're just computers. We're biological computers, is how I see most people and myself as well. And I think it's very hard for people to be subjective enough, or maybe um to have be mindful enough to actually be intuitive. And I'm not saying you're not, because I generally do think you are an intuitive person, because there's been moments where you just warn me about stuff that logically doesn't make sense to me. But then I've come to find that, okay, actually, shit, he was right. I would
It's that
say,
it's intuition or anxiety. Who knows? It's one of the
yeah,
two.
it's a bit of both. I do. It's more that hurt people, not just hurt people hurt people, but hurt people know what to look out for so they don't get hurt again. And it's how good you are at
The symptom sheet.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah, how good you are at spotting those symptoms and those signs and being aware of it. I think people perceive intuition as almost like a spidey sense, that out of nowhere I spot danger ahead. And I don't think it's the case unless you've experienced it or you're biologically hardwired to spot certain things that naturally you should be scared of. Like, what was it? Babies are naturally scared of like heights and sudden things. Everything else, more or less, is kind of learned. We either learn to get over it or we just learn to be scared of it. And because of that, I think a lot of intuition is maybe your subconscious going, huh, we've been here before. Like,
Yeah. No,
this has
genuinely,
happened
it's
before. And I don't think you've realized this, but the pattern is happening again. And
yeah.
that's where we get, and because of that is you probably get scammed before you don't get scammed again. Like, you've been scammed before if you think you survived scams. And why I'm saying I don't this leads into why I don't trust people who actually cheat is in one of, I'd say my final year at uni, I lived with this guy who, boy cheated. Boy cheated all the time. And you don't know him. It's not who I think you're thinking of. It's not him. Because all the girls he was with knew he was cheating. So that's different. He cheated fairly. People knew, like, his spouses knew they were being cheated on, to a point where I kind of just go, happy to work with him because he doesn't hide it. And the people he does actually care about, he doesn't cheat on. But if he does actually tell you he's cheating and you're still with him, I mean, if if I
Mm.
tell you this is a bag of sand, but I'm calling it water, don't drink it. Simple as that. Like, it's one of them. But these people just drank his bag of
Uh,
sand all the time. So that's different. There is levels to it. But this other guy I live with had I only met his girlfriend once, maybe twice actually. Seemed like a lovely girl. I didn't know what I loved, but she seemed like a lovely girl. And when she was present, he was literally, he would dote on her. They'll go on dates. Pretty sure they're still together actually. So let me not tell the story in too much detail. But you don't know, they'll go on dates to do all these fun stuff. As soon as she was gone and his boys came round, Lewis, it was like we'd never met the girl. And like, I'll be sat there like, I see you. Like, what's going on here? And then it'll just be like, oh, we're guys, man. You'd co-sign it. And at that point, I was like, no, I was raised different. Like, I wasn't raised to do this. I'm not like you. But that guy could never, ever trust him with anything. Could not trust any, regardless of how logical what he says sounds like. Hand on heart, I couldn't ever say I could trust that person with anything that would put me in a vulnerable situation. I couldn't trust him with an idea. I couldn't trust him with anything financial, nothing. And knowing that he's actually trying to build himself into a prominent place where he kind of like is he a finance bro or a property bro? One of those two. But he's trying to like build himself into one of those characters, and I'm just looking at it and being like, you're
he's
putting
got a
yourself in a
pump and
position
dump
where,
a coin.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
exactly. You're putting
100%.
yourself into a position where people should trust you, and I know for a fact I could never trust you with anything. But yeah,
Yeah.
characters like that, even to a point where I'm pretty sure like he tried to do something with someone close to me, and then had the audacity to apologize to me afterwards. And I basically was just like, bro, but I hear the other stories you tell about the other people you do it to, where you say you apologize to them. And then I hear what you say to their boys after you apologize to them. So respectfully, fuck off. Like, I don't care. It's one of those kind of people. And because I know people like that exist and because I have a radar for them now, could never work with someone like that ever. But yeah, I think that's a good bit about Art of War. I think we got some good examples. implement it in business, I would say if you have to spend your time doing anything, I would suggest listening to Art of War 5 times compared to trying to go through 48 Laws of Power, just because I prefer Art of War. But I do think you can only really appreciate Art of War by listening to 48 Laws of Power. I think you have to do that first,
Yeah.
and then come to Art of War.
No,
I also think Art of War gains you can get better context from what you hear in Art of War by considering it 48 Laws of Power. So as much as I prefer Art of War, I do think you need to trudge through
I think
at least to law 25. You need to trudge through.
Yeah.
And then I stopped at 25 because I'm recreating myself, and that's what 25 is about. And then I jumped straight into Art of War. But I'll come back and finish it and go to 48 before I give a final opinion.
Yeah,
on
and
48 Laws of Power.
I think with Artur as well, like I deep dived into Google afterwards just to be like,
Yeah.
okay, what did I just listen to? So that's my way of not having to listen to it 5 times. So
Yeah.
that's how I'll appreciate it. But yeah, I think this is good, man. Yeah, the next episode I will be in my new apartment. So the background, well, apartment? Or am I fucking American? My new flat, my new gaff. So
It turned into white man van so
yeah,
quickly.
I don't know why the fuck I just said that.
White
So
van,
sorry.
white man van? What the fuck was I saying? Yeah,
I
carry on.
don't know. Right, we need to go to bed. Right,
Yeah, I've got
guys,
enough coffee.
if you have enjoyed, please give us a follow, a like on Instagram. Please, it's the podcast evolves everywhere. Let us know what you think. Comment down below. Share with your friends. Share all the other episodes with your friends. We actually got like a catalog now, so there's bare episodes for you guys to be sharing around.
We can go back and keep hearing our voice.
You guys don't need to be up to date. You can just go back. You know,
Go back and you're waiting for Monday to come around again so we can drop a new episode.
Yeah,
There's
we got
enough
that.
episodes
Just
to
listen-
go around. Just go back and listen to them. Come back.
doing.
Listen to all the good ends about it. You can actually see that
We
we
care.
better people.
Yeah,
All these
actually,
hip
so
the logo. Like generally, I can already see
these
the
were
improvement.
rough. Yeah, these were rough.
They're painful.
Yeah,
Those
you know, every
we
other
learn-
decade, with every 10 episodes, there's some sort of shift. I think.
just
So-
after every episode, just remind yourself we listen, but we don't judge. Okay.
That's actually so
It's-
true.
we listen and we don't judge, and the newest are growing. Yeah, we're
We're
growing people. We're developing. I might turn around in about 200 episodes time, and I might be living in some forest somewhere because I've changed what I want to do with my life. You never know, but you would never see the connection points between Sam with a car to Sam living hermit life. You never know that if you don't watch all the episodes. You just don't know how it happened. How did his hairstyle get so bad? How did he let himself go? How would
Did you
know
just
that?
say you're out of
Until the
coffee? I feel
episode.
like the coffee. You just got second wave of coffee.
I got second wind, bro. I got second wind. I'm gonna save it for getting the socials up now, bro. All right, let's wrap it up properly. Socials. Where can they find us, Lewis?
TikTok, the podcast evolve. Give that a follow. Instagram, the podcast evolve. Thepodcastevolve.com. Zana Studios X and DER. On Instagram, on TikTok. ZanaStudios.com. We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
We're not gonna hype up my new business yet because we've only just registered the domain. But
Yeah, we're gonna have
Time
to
is
dedicate an
right.
episode to this because I'm deliberately not asking you because I would
Yeah.
deep dive into that.
I want it to go live.
So
Talk about the dynamics of how I can set this up and how the dev is lovely but annoying. We'll talk about him as well. But yeah, we'll talk about
you
all
guys
that.
need to,
Oh,
you
there's more
just got to
content.
follow so you keep updated with all these shenanigans. All right, see you guys.
When I'm a millionaire, you know why. Love you, mate.
See you guys. Bye.